So Laurent, thank you very much for joining me here today. It's the last couple of weeks for you in the management board at Nutreco. It's been quite a ride. You joined the company in 2007, and before joining the management board, you've had many different positions across the company, so really instrumental in our development and growth. Can you tell me, my first question is, what is the purpose, Feeding the Future? What does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, because this thing kept me busy for 32 years, so way before joining Nutreco. This is what I've been doing since 1991, in many shape or form, but always feeding animals. So Feeding the Future, we can make it well, as meaningful as we want. If we want commonplace, you Google Feeding the Future, you will get 100 of it, and you click, view more and more and more. Next to that, if we ask me what it is for me, I'll try to put some number on that, and a little bit of nerdy, my nerdy part. Well, actually, you need more or less 30 grams of protein, animal protein, per person and per day. Out of the 50 grams of protein, 30 are coming from animal. And after having done a lot of math, I came to the conclusion that the addition of all the animal protein I've been involved with along the last 32 years is sufficient to feed the existing population on Earth, the 8 billion, during 200 days.
Wow.
200 days of protein times 30 grams for the 8 billion people on Earth. It took me 32 years to do that, right? It's not the feed I've been involved, let's say, I've been making in the form of complete feed. I did a lot of math involving the premix, the complete feed equivalent, but that's a number. And we are 12,000 in Nutreco. So if you ask me what means Feeding the Future, is I managed to get to this number, which is a bit mind-blowing. We are making an impact.
Yes.
The 12,000 of us. That's not a commonplace, that's real.
Yeah, that's really. I mean, obviously, you've been in the animal feed industry much longer than since 2007. You're also a doctor of veterinary medicine. So yes, you're going to be sorely missed. But if we go back to before you went into the management board, obviously you've had many different positions, and you were absolutely instrumental in developing our business in Asia. Could you give me some personal thoughts around that, the challenges, how it went?
It has been quite a ride, because when I joined Nutreco, I've been given the choice to some extent either to work in Boxmeer or to stay in Indonesia, where I was living. So I was first checking Boxmeer on Google Earth. It was already existing at the time, and it was just covered by clouds. It was a cloudy place, right? And the only building I could spot was actually the feed silo of the neighbor of Nutreco. It was a pig farm, I think. So I was more familiar with Asia this time, so I took the decision to stay in Indonesia, even though at the time all I got was, there was nothing there, nothing in Southeast Asia. I just got basically 2 Excel files from a company we acquired, the list of their clients, the list of their supplier, and it started in a small hotel room in Jakarta.
Wow.
That's what it was. Coming to basically putting Southeast Asia on the radar screen, on the map of Nutreco. At the time, we had only a business in China. Yes, at this time, I could have sold the company and take the money for myself. Nobody would have noticed, probably. The thing has changed dramatically. Nutreco turned from, let's say, international company with like a confederation of independent operating company into a real multinational, as it is today. It was not the case at this time. And after these few years spent in Indonesia, I moved to Vietnam for a very specific purpose. I have to pitch at this time the idea to feed shrimp.
Okay.
And that was not very popular because the Nutreco, as part of BP Nutrition, has been involved in shrimp farming in the mid-1980s, and it was kind of a disaster.
Okay.
So I have to explain why it should be a good idea back in 2010, 2009. And when I got the green light, indeed I moved to Vietnam to, let's say, acquire this company called Tomboy at the time, which is now Skretting Vietnam, the first company, part of Nutreco, feeding shrimp. Well, it has been quite a journey with what you know today with Skating Ecuador, which is our champion to some extent. I'm very proud of that. It was also amazing to, let's say, get involved with people like Alex to think about how to feed an animal, which is not a fish, more like an insect.
Yeah.
In a country nobody knew either, Vietnam. That's what I like. I mean, that's meaningful, and that end up very well with a new activity for Nutreco today.
Yes, absolutely incredible how it's grown since then. Yeah. So obviously innovation and sustainability are really, really close to your heart. And New Frontiers was actually your baby. It was your idea, wasn't it? Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, you know, this kind of thing, it came out of a combination of a business moment and frustration, because I was at this time based in Asia, in Hong Kong, and you always feel that you are never well served by the headquarters. When you are far away from the headquarters, you say, well, you know, those people, I don't know what they are doing, but they are not doing enough for me in my position, or for me where I am working in Asia. And at this time, it was back in 2014, more or less, we start to hear about startup. The concept of startup was already familiar and common in technology, but in food and agriculture, some of those companies were already out there. So I tried to figure out which one could be relevant for us, without any staff, without any way to basically reach out to them. So I start to barter what I know about animal farming, about animal protein, against the insight of private equity or venture capital already active in food and agriculture. So 80% of their portfolio was actually focused on crop farming, and 20% on animal farming or animal protein. These people knew very little about that, so I helped them to get their head around that, to understand what it was. In return, they share with me a pipeline of startup, a list of startup. I start to develop some sort of relationship with them, and when I moved to the Netherlands a year after, I have let's say the foundation, the network, the relationship that help to establish New Frontier as the corporate venture of Nutreco. That's how it started, because I was frustrated to some extent, but also because I was curious to check what was out there.
Yes, amazing. I mean, and obviously it's come on so far since then with investments in companies like Mosa Meat, but alternative proteins. That brings me to my next question. Obviously, it's an and situation, but do traditional farmers, is it a threat to them, or should we not be worried about it?
But this is how it started, because we look into that as a potential threat for the farmer, for our business. It took us a good year and a half or 2 years to understand exactly what it was about. As we speak, at best, the whole alternative protein sector should take maybe 10 to 15% of the whole protein production, maybe 10 years from now or something like that. So you can decide, instead of investing in alternative protein, to put all your money in Asia, where the growth of the population will be, and you will be still growing. On the other hand, in some part of our business, that will indeed impact our client to some extent, where the number of animals is declining, when the consumer is more, let's say, conscious about, let's say, eating less protein or eating, let's say, less animal protein, that could have an impact. But on the other hand, for a company like Nutreco, it's also a business opportunity, which we completely misunderstood at the beginning. We thought it was just a threat, and we thought also that we would have been more relevant investing in plant-based protein, because we are using plant to feed animals, or in fermentation, but we end up to come to the conclusion that cell-based agriculture, so lab-grown meat or lab-grown fish, is actually a nice business opportunity for us. Because in this case, we are feeding the cells of the animal, not the animal, but the fundamentals are very similar. So we basically try to figure out how this new supply chain will be shaped, who are going to be let's say, the player in this one, and we believe that Nutreco can be one of them. It can be a business line alongside the rest of the Nutreco as we know it, In some part of the world, the farmer could indeed not be benefiting from that. This is obvious. But, well, that will be driven by the consumer, not by us. But it's still very much relevant because the fundamental, once again, to match the need of the cells of the animal, instead of matching the need of the animal with mix of raw material, are very similar. As long as you understand how this supply chain will be shaping, and we are also shaping our own portfolio of investment accordingly. We invest recently in rustling technology, which is somehow the equivalent of animal genetic, but not for the animal, for the cells. We also invest in Blunalu and Mozambique. They are, I like to call them protein farmer. They are not farming animal, but they are farming animal protein in a different way. And they will be also in between the genetic of the cells and those who are farming the cells, people supplying input for those cells. Nutreco could be very well one of them. That's what we are trying to make happen.
Yes, very, very interesting. But for you, Laurent, tell me, what's next? Because you're not completely leaving us, are you? Not yet, anyway.
Leaving Nutreco, for sure I will.
Yes.
It's my last week in Amersfoort, at least. What I will be doing going forward, well, first to give a room for serendipity. I've been very busy, focusing on one sector only for 32 years. So I would like to open up when I'm not yet completely at my best before. I still have some good years to come.
Yes.
Combining first taking care of myself, let's say being in better shape. So I can tell you 6 months from now, I will be able to climb the slope of the Pyrenees on my bike better than now. Listening to my wife, who is a meditation instructor.
Wow.
I'm not a very good audience for meditation, I can tell you. I'm pretty much the other way. Now I have no way to escape. We'll be living in the same 100 square meters, so I will have to deal with that. And I will also certainly spend, like, I don't know, maybe 2 months a year doing a bit of consulting to help corporation, venture capital or consulting company to find their way in this sector. I hope I know pretty well.
No, you do, that's for sure. So Laurent, do you have any closing words that you'd like to tell our colleagues at Nutreco? What would be your advice?
You know, back in 2019, when I joined the executive committee at the time, the management board, in the beginning of the year, I say, as a chief strategy officer, in this room, I told to people, you know what, strategy is dead. The concept of strategy is pretty much, as we know it in the past, is not relevant anymore, because our environment is so changing, unpredictable, that it's more about resilience, about agility, rather than having a clear strategic direction that you are going to follow no matter what. That's a self-defeating concept. A few months later, we got COVID. I'm not a visionary, but in this case, I was really pretty right. And when COVID was a little bit out of the scope, then we got the Ukraine thing, right? Well, so flexibility, agility, resilience, sustainability for the business, but also for the environment. That's the same thing. It's about being resilient. That's what will be our new way of working. I do believe that Nutreco will be much different in the coming years or coming months. We never know. We need people able to deal with that.
Yeah.
That's what I would say we all need to do. And what we are doing is really meaningful. Think about that. Only one person like me, I'm just like a lambda guy, I still manage to make as much protein as you require to feed the world for almost half a year, more than half a year.
Yeah.
But it took me 32 years for that.
Laurent, thank you so much for your time. You will be surely very, very missed in the company, but thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.